Rarely wrong, always right. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Greetings, friends, and happy Friday. We made it. It's been a week. My goodness. Now, before I get into everything that's cooking, let me just congratulate our Salmon Ash HSK ticket giveaway winner, Sharnaz Terrell. We have sent you an email and left you a voicemail. Congratulations. You're going to the game tomorrow in Henderson at Lee's Family Forum, 4 on ice tickets. So let us know that you've got this, and we'll send everything over to you as quickly as we can. All right. I am, besides, of course, the Biden administration, 4 years of complete hell, open borders, economy in shatters, disaster everywhere. But one of the things, too, that always just bothered me is how corporate everything was. Biden wasn't writing his own tweets. Everything was very, processed. The White House website was boring. Everything was just dumb, right? It was all done by committee. It was all tested. What's going to play? What's going to, and right? Biden did write his own tweets because I don't think he could do that. Number one. Number two, his tweets would go out, for example, during debates that he had. That first debate, which he was literally tweeting. The account of Joe Biden is tweeting while he's up on stage. And so it's just all of it was, was fake. Big fakery. So along comes Trump, and from one thing to the next, I just give you an example here. So there's a COVID.gov website, right? COVID.gov. And this is the place that has been used by Biden for 4 years to talk about, everything the government is doing about COVID and spread COVID propaganda, urge people to get their vaccines, et cetera, et cetera. So the Trump administration has rebranded it, and it's the Lab Leak, the true origins of COVID-19. And it goes through the whole thing. So, virus possesses biological characteristics not found in nature, goes through the whole steps, shows where Wuhan is, shows where the seafood market is and the Wuhan Institute of Virology. But then it actually goes through the pardon for Anthony Fauci. And it highlights a full and unconditional pardon for any offenses against the United States, which he may have committed or taken part in from January 1, 2014 to present. So good. It talks about his obstruction. And this is exactly, even Andrew Cuomo gets called out here. Of course, Mr. Cuomo, former governor of New York, now running for mayor of New York City, considered by many to be the front runner in that race, says here that he knowingly and willfully made false statements to the select subcommittee on numerous occasions about material aspects of New York's COVID-19 nursing home disaster. It's almost sounding like perhaps Trump's going to, with his Department of Justice, do something about that. Fascinating. So my point is that websites here and material and that produced by the White House that typically Republican Democrat is very staid, very boring, very kind of follows some delicate sensitivities. The new Trump administration is throwing all that out the window and is literally laying it out on these sites. And their Twitter account is merciless. For example, this was yesterday at night. Yesterday, about 9 p.m., they posted 2 side-by-side photographs. This is the White House Twitter account on X, at White House's official Twitter account. And there's one picture with Trump sitting at the desk consoling, Oval Office, consoling Rachel Morin's mom, Patty. The two had a meeting the other day at the White House. I played clips from that press conference. And then the one on the right is Abrego Garcia, the MS-13 gangbanger who down in El Salvador had a meeting late yesterday with Chris Evans, the senator there from Maryland. And this thing, it is so great. Excuse me. Yes, Evan Van Hollen. Yes, thank you. The Maryland senator. Okay, and well, you saw this. They pulled the guy. Apparently, one of the things that was argued by the ACLU and others that were participating in the lawsuit was that there was the reason for the need for the Supreme Court to intervene was that there was an irreparable harm likely to be suffered by Abrego Garcia, that he was being tortured, that he was being detained in inhuman circumstances. So the president of El Salvador decides to, in fact, produce him and arrange for a meeting between Abrego Garcia and the senator. And they did it in a restaurant, in a fancy hotel in San Salvador. And what it produced was a photograph. Now, the White House Twitter account took this photograph and promptly put it side by side with Trump, obviously with Rachel Morin's mom, who is, one of the angel families affected by violence from illegal immigrants. And then next to it, the photograph of the senator sitting there with the alleged gang member, consoling him. And in the post, it says, "We are not the same." Now, this is an epic. I mean, it's just it's perfectly done. It sums up everything that Trump wants to, and the administration wants to say politically, and it drives home the point. Again, the Democratic Party out there is the party supporting illegal immigrant gangbangers. And Trump and the Republicans, the party that supports victims of violent crime. We are not the same. That much is clear. Now, and again, I'm going to come back to this because a lot of people are saying in this meeting that the president of El Salvador, Bukele, should not have produced Abrego Garcia. If the guy's in jail, he's in jail. I love that they did this because, again, going back to the lawsuits that are going on here in the country, one of the things that the family, again, the ACLU people fighting these cases are doing, and they're saying, look, if we do not act, if the United States, if the courts don't act, this guy is going to be damaged in some way. But he looked perfectly fine. He looked perfectly happy. He's a citizen of El Salvador. He's down in El Salvador. He's wearing a Chiefs hat. And by the way, speaking through an interpreter, he had to have an interpreter to meet with his own senator. Been here for, in the U.S. for over 10 years, 13 years, doesn't speak English. Side note, pointing that out. And it's interesting that the interpreter is cut out of the pictures used by the senator and his staff for his social media purposes. Interesting note. So it has been a hell of a week. And on top of that, Letitia James has finally decided to speak. And boy, is it good. It's all a witch hunt, Robbie. It's all nonsense. It's all Trump trying to escape the clutches of a crushing judgment against him that is accruing interest as we speak. She makes a point of this. Of course, the case against Trump is going to get kicked out on appeal. The whole thing is completely meritless, and we know that. So nothing here is going to. I'll get to everything here as we progress through the show, but it has been, I'll tell you, just one spectacular week. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Be back in just a moment.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam and Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Okay, friends. This is, I'm going to play the clip here because if we're going to talk about the difference between Republicans and Democrats, Trump and pretty much anybody on the D side right now, it is optics. As a matter of optics, one side is on the right side of things, and that would be, of course, the GOP. And thanks to Trump, by the way. In his meeting this week with the mother of Rachel Marin, who was murdered back in 2023, violently, viciously, horrifying details of that, of course, emerged in the trial. And the recently convicted illegal immigrant who bashed her skull in, I hope, faces the death penalty for what he did. But that said, right, Trump meets with her in the Oval Office. Patty Marin goes and, has the press conference and explains, that, by the way, nobody ever from the Democrat side reached out to her. Nobody talked to her about her loss. She didn't have her senator in Maryland reach out to her. Instead, the guy goes down on a expensive, no doubt, time-consuming, certainly, trip to El Salvador to meet with an illegal immigrant gangbanger and confirm that he's okay. I just wanted to make sure that Mr. Abrego Garcia is okay. So here's Trump at the White House meeting with Patty Marin.
Beautiful.
A dear friend.
She's a beautiful woman. She's been through hell.
So Trump's sitting down at
She's been through hell.
his desk
right?
at the Oval Office.
Oh, yes.
Your daughter's looking down proud of you. You know that. Just keep it going.
I know.
Keep it going.
It's like you said.
Stay with that one.
It's like you said. We have a purpose.
It's a purpose.
Yes, it is.
She's proud of you.
Yeah, she's proud of you. You got a purpose. You've become a dear friend. I mean, this is compassion. It's a human touch. This is everything, right, that the media doesn't want you to think about Trump, because the media wants to make you believe that Orange Hitler is this terrible despot, just an absolute horrifying guy, and that he doesn't have a single little bit of humanness in his soul. And quite the opposite is true. Meanwhile, we got this meeting, and I just, again, coming back to this, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, right? We went through it yesterday. He's by the way, he was apparently on a terror watch list. If you missed yesterday's show, one of the most astounding new details, which, by the way, late last night, the Tennessee Highway Patrol confirmed that they had the encounter with him, that they did pull him over, that there were a bunch of people, up to 7 people in the car. They suspected him of human trafficking. And they were told to release everyone by none other than the FBI. This is, again, this is the guy that the Democrats are all in behind, trying to rationalize a defense of this individual that, apparently listen, was on a government terror watch list. How is what is the case for keeping somebody in the country who is here illegally and concurrently also suspected of terrorism? So this all has been, confirmed. It's all been, and it just keeps getting worse. It's almost like the stuff is being trickled out on purpose by the Trump administration to create maximum embarrassment for every single person out there, who's trying to take up this guy's cause. So and this, by the way, there's a headline from the New York Post on this. that Trump says, what was the headline here? It was great. This was sitting with the enemy. It's perfect. And it shows the joke. Chris Van Hollen sitting there, the Democratic senator, at a bougie hotel in El Salvador, okay, drinking margaritas with this gang member. And they've cleaned him up, they've given him a nice shirt and everything, but regardless, right? You've got this senator there meeting with him, and this is the same Chris Van Hollen that never called Rachel Marin, her mom, after Rachel Marin was murdered, never called Patty Marin, never refused to vote for the Laken Riley Act, who is absolutely, and by the way, I'm convinced is getting played because this picture is going to be used by every Republican campaigning for the right side of the immigration debate. So I keep thinking that this is just going from bad to worse for them. Now, speaking from bad to worse, Letitia James made an appearance. This is so good. I've got the whole thing. She beamed herself into Spectrum News, New York 1, on Inside City Hall show with political anchor Errol Lewis. And she called the accusations against her baseless. They're baseless. Listen to Letitia James.
Did anybody contact you before this letter went out accusing you of this, that, and the other and making a criminal referral about real estate transactions?
No, not at all. And let me just say to all New Yorkers and to all Americans, the allegations are baseless. The allegations are nothing more than a revenge tour. And as you mentioned, my office was successful in securing a $454 million judgment against Donald Trump and others for exaggerating the value of his assets. He engaged in a pattern and practice of fraud. And the interest is accruing each and every day while the case is on appeal in the First Department. It's important that individuals know that this is nothing more than the continuation of the tour. He went after law firms, universities, immigrants, women. Thousands of federal employees right now are unemployed. Our government is in chaos and in disarray. Medicaid, Social Security, CFPB, and the list goes on and on and on. And as you know, as you mentioned, each and every day, my office is leading the fight against these executive orders, which have no legal import at all, have no legal significance. And we are standing up for the rights and privileges of New Yorkers and Americans. I will not be silenced. I will not be bullied. I will not bend. I will not break. And I will not bow to anyone. No one is above the law, including the President of these United States.
Okay.
And the Office of the Attorney General will continue to stand up.
Okay. So that's a lot of words. And what I didn't hear, right? She calls it baseless. There's baseless accusations, allegations against me. Remember what they are. The allegations against her are very specific. Number one, it's that she claimed that the house that she was purchasing in Virginia was going to be her primary residence. She does an attestation to that fact. Of course, at the very same time, she has to be a resident of New York State in order to continue performing her functions there as Attorney General. So that's one issue. The second issue is for a separate property. She claims her father as a husband, right, puts him down as a spouse, which presumably he's not. And it's in an effort to get a more favorable rate. And then there's another accusation, very specific one, that she claimed that a 5-unit, piece of property, some income property that she was purchasing was in fact a 4-unit property, not a 5-unit property. And that's because you get a better rate for the 4-unit property under conforming loan guidelines. So these are very specific allegations. Now, if somebody accused me, and I'm an attorney, but I think even you, I think we all kind of can appreciate this. Somebody accuses you of lying, of something, of lying on an application. You just say, I didn't do it. That didn't happen. It's completely false. But she just says it's baseless. And the whole thing, I'm telling you, it sounds like to me like she did it. Of course, they're all allegations as of now. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840. Back with more on this when we come back. Greetings, friends. Welcome to the What's Right Show, your place for common sense conservatism, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. Sam Mirejovsky here, Nevada's favorite recovering Californian. Sam at whatsrightshow.com is my email. So I got more of this Letitia James. To me, and if you haven't followed the story, basically, one of the prosecutors, inquisitors of Donald Trump, the Attorney General of New York, who prosecuted him for allegedly inflating the value of Mar-a-Lago, for example, to obtain a loan, right? That was the allegation. And the bank, by the way, if I just reminder on the Donald Trump deal, the bank, Deutsche Bank, came in, the executives that did the deal, they came in and they said, no, we're fine with it. We did our own appraisal. And we felt that there was sufficient collateral to cover the loan. Oh? Did you guys get fully repaid? Yep, we got fully repaid. We did our own analysis. And we did the loan. We knew what Mar-a-Lago was, and we believed the asset was worth more money than is being alleged by the Attorney General. And it was sufficient. So he had favorable testimony from the bank. Anyway, gets the conviction, of course, because it's New York. Everybody hates Trump. And now, everybody's calling Trump a convicted felon. Meanwhile, as this is going on, Letitia James, the Attorney General, is allegedly making fraudulent statements, lies on her applications for some loans, particularly a property down in Virginia, a $220,000 modest property. Does not look like something that she was buying for herself, maybe for a friend, a family member. Regardless, she claimed on the loan that it was her primary residence. And, for people to understand this, if you haven't bought a house before, you get better financing for something that is your primary residence. The reason for that is that the bank considers it a safer bet to lend to someone for their primary residence because you're going to do whatever it takes to save your home so you have a place to live. So you're going to prioritize making payments on your home. It's less risky than you are making payments on an investment property. I think this sort of makes sense why banks do it anyway. So it's a pretty clear accusation, right? She's not living in Virginia. She's clearly in New York. She's the Attorney General of New York, which requires her to be a resident of the state of New York. And she's down there, buying a house, claiming that it's a primary residence. If that is true, that's a problem. That's a felony. Now, if she gets convicted of a felony, unlike Donald Trump running for office, this now would result in her potentially losing her law license. If she loses her law license, she can't be Attorney General. And I do believe actually could result in her getting, removed from office. I do believe that would happen. Certainly, even without the state bar coming in and suspending her, or worse yet, disbarring her. But lawyers who lie on mortgage documents and get convicted of any kind of crimes involving moral turpitude, that's the term, automatically. I mean, it's clear as day. The Nevada State Bar, California State Bar, New York State Bar, I'll tell you, they come in and they yank your license. It's over. So there's a real risk here, which makes her statements here all the more ridiculous. So here she is protesting her innocence, claiming this is all a nonsense deal. Errol Lewis is the reporter here, wants to follow up on it. So he's following up, and she keeps pushing back that this is all nonsense. Listen to her tone, though. Don't find her too credible.
Let me follow up of some of what's in this this letter. It says according to media reports, which for us in the media is kind of a red flag, meaning that it seems to be based on some social media posts that I know were made by partisan political actors. But just let me ask you about some of the specifics in the letter. They're saying that your house in Brooklyn is a legal 5-family and the mortgage on it is for a 4-family house. Is that true?
So let me just say that, Errol, you know, as any good attorney, I will not litigate this case in a camera. It's important that we will respond to these allegations at the appropriate time and in an appropriate way. But I will not go back and forth with respect to these baseless allegations. I am more focused, again, on standing up for the freedoms, the liberties, and for the rule of law in the state of New York.
Just say it's not true. Just say it's not true. It's not any good lawyer. And any good lawyer who knows their goose is cooked is going to use a lot of fluffy language. She's right in that regard. But, I mean, do you hear this? He specifically goes, well, you know, I know this is a lot of partisan stuff and whatnot, but, you know, they're saying they're making a specific allegation that your house in Brooklyn is legal 5-family and the mortgage on it is for a 4-family, for a 4-plex. And it's only eligible up to being a 4-plex. It cannot be a 5-family, a multifamily unit. And there are, it sounds to me like in New York State, there's some you know, border there, and it may be a federal, you know, conforming loan thing that you have to get basically a commercial loan for anything that is considered multifamily. But up to a 4-plex, you can get a conventional loan for it. This is what I suspect is the situation. And instead of saying that isn't true, ... So let me just say that, you know, as any good attorney, I will not litigate this in court. It's just, this is so bad. I'm gonna come out and say it. I think they've got her. My reading the way she is responding to these questions, I think that this is real. Wow. This lady's going down. So then Errol Lewis comes along and throws James another lifeline. Here, Tish, let me help you out.
I was under the impression by all of this that what they were really looking for is what they got, which is a headline saying, you know, Tish James is under a criminal investigation. Is that pretty much what's going on here?
Yeah, that's what they got. That's what they got. And it's unfortunate that you have some of these right-wing conservative individuals who are camped out in front of my home and in front of the homes of my relatives in Virginia, harassing them each and every day. And it's unfortunate, knocking on the doors of my neighbors and the neighbors of my relatives in the state of Virginia. And it is nothing more than a headline. Nothing more than, again, retaliation against all of the actions that I have taken successfully against Donald Trump.
Successfully. Not for long, lady, trust me. Your case against him is going to fall apart like, you know, brisket from a good barbecue. It can come off the bone. Trust me. There's no there. And the Court of Appeals, and she mentions the longer interview. She mentions in one of the points in the interview, talks about the Court of Appeals is going to affirm this. I don't think she's listened or will admit to listening to the types of questions even very liberal justices were asking. Basically, where's the crime here? They're asking the New York appellate lawyer, who basically represents the state, in trying to keep the prosecution, the case, the conviction valid. And where's the crime? We're kind of confused here. Where's the crime? We don't know where the crime is. The lawyer like, blah, blah, blah. And listen to what an idiot. She sounds like a complete idiot. And this happens, right? These attorney general races. I mean, be honest with me. You guys vote. How many times do you really care about the attorney general? I know we care. I get this. You know, we care obviously about the presidential race. We're very invested in that. At the state level, we're very keen on, the governor races, right? They tend to attract attention. I think a lot of folks out there obviously concerned about the Senate and the makeup of Congress, so they vote in that. You get down to attorney general, people just don't even, it's like, what does that person really do? It's like the Consumer Protection Bureau, some sort of stuff like that. But see how much power these people have? You put the attorney generalship in a state like New York, like Nevada, like California in the wrong hands. You give it to someone like Kamala Harris in California. Look at the damage that she did. And I'm speaking here as somebody who knows California like the back of my hand, grew up there, loved the state. And these crazy Democrats destroyed it. And she used the bully pulpit of her office to go out and trash business already hurting from insane left-wing policies, going after businesses for ridiculous things. And of course, in the era of Trump, all of these Democrat attorney generals have done everything in their power to try to go to destroy him. Look here in Nevada, Ron Ford, his ridiculous prosecution of Michael McDonald and others, related to this alternate slate of electors in the 2020 election. It's absurd. There's a precedent for it. Do I think it was a little stunty and stupid? And did they have to do it? No, they didn't have to do any of it. I don't, but does it warrant the full attention and prosecution by the attorney general of a state? Absolutely not, number one. And number two, it's not even appropriate to bring charges. It's prosecutorial misconduct, honestly. And that's going to be another shoe to drop here, because I think, honestly, Ron Ford ought to be investigated himself for things that he has done, and particularly bringing cases that are politically motivated that are non-cases to begin with. So people sleep on these races. People sleep on the attorney general race, and they don't realize it. Get somebody in there who is political. And I'll tell you, a lot of conservatives, a lot of Republicans get elected to that position, and they want to just prosecute the law. They want to go after wrongdoing, because that's what we do. We Republicans are, law and order people. If you're going to be the state's top cop, you go after crime. And politics, there's some examples of it, of course, but generally speaking, a state attorney general, like, for example, Pam Bondi in Florida before she became the U.S. attorney general, was going after criminals, was going after wrongdoing. But you get the Democrats in there, and hell's bells, man, all they want to do is make it political and use that power to go after their political opponents. And that's exactly what is, I think, now going to get the best of Tish James. Couldn't happen to a nicer person. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. What's Right show is brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam & Ash, 702-820-1234, because you deserve what's right. Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. By the way, Fani Willis, remember her? She and Nathan Wade, the boyfriend, right? Fani Willis down in Fulton County, Georgia, embattled, beleaguered prosecutor who went after Trump and others. That case obviously did not go over well. And now the state Supreme Court has stepped in and I think is doing an investigation, frankly, of her. I saw that there was a tape. Somebody filmed this the other day. There's no audio of it. It's just a video in an airport where Fani recently is with her lover boy. is with the prosecutor, her boyfriend, that she spent all this money. Remember, she used taxpayer funds to hire this outside lawyer to work as a prosecutor on the Get Trump team, Nathan Wade. And then this guy, basically, what was it, like $600,000, $700,000, Robbie, something like that, a lot of money. Okay, and they, is just it was anyway, right, and then of course, he took her on a bunch of trips, and she testified in court that cash is fungible. Cash is fungible. It just appears. I keep cash around the house. My daddy taught me to keep cash around. Well, how did you get the cash? Well, I don't know how I got the cash. I've always had cash. It just sort of appears magically in my house. So you paid Nathan Wade money, cash money? Yeah. I just gave him cash, like thousands of dollars of cash to cover these cruises. Yeah, something like that. It was comical, and I played it for you all at the time. So I'll tell you what happened. Remember how defiant Fani Willis was? She was defiant. The relationship ended, right? She claims the relationship had been over. It was in the past. Defiant about this. No, I paid him back with cash. I didn't get any benefit from using this public money that I was paying my boyfriend, and then him taking us on lavish vacations. Didn't happen. And yeah, well, now, of course, the video, and they're obviously still traveling together and look very loved up, so odd. Maybe they rekindled, right? Not dispositive proof of her lying, but I just want you to remember the tone when she was testifying there, was swiveling around in her chair and just like, no, angry, defiant, just pissed off that she even had to be there. Well, just in the same way now, we found this clip. It's been making the rounds, and the date of it coincides roughly to the 48-hour period when these allegations first came to light about Tisha James, Attorney General of New York State. Also one of the Trump lawfare prosecutors who now is suspected of mortgage fraud. Funny. So here is Tish James, and this was, just to be sure I get the dates right here, on the 6th. So this is about 12 days ago. And she's at the National Action Network Women's Conference, and she's not addressing the charges, right? But she is on a next level. You can tell that she's already realizing that her life is about to explode. So listen to this.
It's clear. I'm focused. I'm prepared. I'm ready. I've been trained by the best. I went to Howard University that overturned legal segregation in this country. I've been taught in those classrooms where Thurgood Marshall once taught. I'm not afraid of no president. Donald Trump, we're ready for you. We're coming for you. We're standing up for you. We're fighting on. We're not going down silent. Victory, my friends, is clear. It's now. And I'm not waiting 4 years. I'm waiting 2 until a speaker by the name of Hakeem Jeffries comes to bring us some rest. Come on, ladies. It's up to us. We saved this democracy before. We'll save it now. Let's go.
Oh, Robbie, I'm so glad you got that clip. Oh my gosh. And today is the perfect day. I love having a little fun on Fridays. I do. We got to have fun with these people. They are all clowns. They're deeply unserious people. And it's so funny. Can we just kind of zoom out a little bit? Like this person, and I've run into lawyers like this. I remember going to law school and, went to Chapman. It's not Harvard and it's not, it's a, good, solid school. And we had some very smart kids in our class. I mean, wickedly smart people. And then we had some dolts We had people that got in there on fumes. Okay, I'm going to be nice because it's traceable who was in my class, but on fumes. Okay, and it was obvious to everybody that it was affirmative action, right? And and when they got called on in class and they hadn't done their reading and they were being sloppy and they couldn't use their brain fast enough, they resorted to this kind of like performance art, like rah, 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 rah. And it was like their default. And back to what I was saying yesterday about how schools are not preparing kids to be serious players in the world because they're stressing advocacy, over achievement. I think, what you're watching here is someone who always got away with it. She always got away with it because she was Black. She was a woman. She always played some card, had something going for her that made the substance of who she is professionally and personally irrelevant, or at least not operative. She's Tish James. She's fighting racism. She's fighting Trump. She's fighting. It doesn't matter. I have a pesky mortgage Friday. Get me sidelined with that. This is the fundamental problem with these people. There's no there. So now there's a problem. Beautiful. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840. Back in just a few minutes here, top of the hour. I got lots to cover. Stay tuned. Greetings, friends, and welcome to the What's Right show, brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law. In a crash, no matter how big or how small your injury, call the only law firm to trust for your injury case. 702-820-1234. That's the phone number. That's a number you can use both for the California and Nevada office. 702-820-1234, or just a phone call away. Sam & Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right. Now, in today's You Don't Hate the Media Enough segment, we should make that a thing, Robbie. We really should. You don't hate the media enough. Rachel Swan, writing for the SF Chronicle, okay? This is the paper of record of San Francisco. And I don't know, I think there's still a print version of this, but wherever there is a print version of a newspaper like the San Francisco Chronicle, I always say that it's good for one thing, and that is to shred up and use in your hamster's, cage as a litter box. Okay, like that's what this is. If you've got a parakeet, a gerbil, some animal that likes to poop, and you want it absorbed, this is what the newspaper is good for. At any rate, here's the headline. As San Francisco car break-ins plunge, meaning decrease, right? Fewer break-ins, are happening. I'm reading it, right? And I'm thinking, oh, good. Yeah, this is great news. Comma, these businesses are suffering. And it literally is a story crying about the fact that people who replace auto glass are getting, fewer people interested, and it's been bad for business. Never underestimate the power of a liberal to be upset about crime getting cleaned up, to be upset about illegal immigration getting fixed. They will find an angle by which to oppose conservative progress any opportunity they get. It's astounding. Quoting Hank Wee, manager of In-N-Out Glass, a large garage on Bayshore Boulevard in San Francisco, quote, "We used to get 60 to 80 calls a day. Now we're lucky to get 25. You know what this reminds me of, Robbie? We have a Sam & Ash building in downtown Las Vegas in the Arts District. And we have a wall that is on the alley. Okay, there are these little alleys. It's, old part of Vegas. So there's, this in the alley is where almost without fail every month, Robbie, there's somebody that tags the building. You know this. They come in and they, do the little tagging thing. And we have a painter. His name is Rick. Rick's a great guy, Dodgers fan. And Rick comes in and he quickly paints over it, right? So you have to clean this up. If you have a building downtown, you've graffiti, the rule is you always have to clean it up. Otherwise, you get more and more of it. And it attracts, a crime. So my joke is, and I'm thinking, Robbie, if maybe In-N-Out Auto Glass, we always joke at the office, but we think Rick is in on it. I tease him about this too. So if he's listening, he knows I'm doing this in jest, but we always joke, right when Rick needs an extra few $100, we think he's out there tagging the building at night. Well, because then we call him, right? And he's the one to go clean it up. So maybe the auto glass people in San Francisco ought to get in the business of breaking more windows. What is this? Is this the opposite of a silver lining? Like what it was? Oh, well, I guess the bad news from all the good news the city's having, because I would think it is objectively good news that cars aren't being broken into in San Francisco, is I guess the auto glass people are suffering. Can you imagine making this argument? So let's say Chicago somehow, by some miracle, gets a MAGA mayor. At this point, by the way, it wouldn't even take a MAGA mayor. It would just take a common sense Democrat. And that person comes in and begins to clean up the gun violence. Would the Chicago Tribune write a paper going, gosh, boy, we're really happy that we have far fewer gunshot victims, but these poor trauma surgeons, they're not buying second homes anymore because they don't have enough to do. You don't hate the media enough. I'm telling you. Now, by the way, and speaking of media spectacles, did you catch Tom Homan on MSNBC? Tom Homan went on MSNBC. Okay, this is... Friends, I think this is so good because he goes on with Morning Joe. Now, Morning Joe, how do I put this nicely? This guy who has advanced TDS, but he also understands that he wants to keep his show. And he has, I think, been told by the higher-ups at MSNBC that he has to start being a little bit more, to borrow a term from Fox, fair and balanced. I suspect that is going on behind the scenes, which is why him and Mika, his wife, right, Mika Brzezinski's co-host, have been going easy. And remember, they went to Mar-a-Lago, I think, after the election, did that summit down there. Right? I got to set this up because Tom Homan went on his show. Now, number one, Tom Homan, who is the border czar, a big improvement over the previous border czar in previous administration, none other than Kamala. Tom Homan has no problem going toe-to-toe with any lib. Like, he'll do it. But the fascinating thing that came from this, I think, is that Joe Scarborough kind of goes easy on Homan and actually is persuaded by some of his arguments. I've got the segment here because it's so good. So here's the first part. Homan goes on MSNBC, and it starts a little bit hostile, admittedly.
Even people like myself that's been talking about the need for strong borders for 30 years, I think a lot of conservatives, and I can read you quotes from a lot of conservatives here, who say they want gang members out, they want violent members out, but there's a right way to do it, and there's a wrong way to do it. And a lot of people believe that what we've seen over the past 3 months is the wrong way to do it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, look, the American people voted for this. American people voted for Donald Trump. This is number one issue. Vast majority of Americans want illegal aliens removed from this country, and it's done humanely. However, we got to remember this. There are millions of people standing in line, taking their tests, doing their background investigation, paying their fees to be part of the greatest nation on earth. They're sitting in the back seat while 10.5 million illegal aliens came to this border, enter this country illegally, which is a violation of law. There's right way and right way to come to this country legally. The people who came across, they call them asylum seekers, but you and I both know, if you look at immigration court data, 9 out of 10 of those so-called asylum seekers will end up with an order removal. They overwhelm the system on purpose. Why? Because they know it's going to take 5, 7, 9 years to have a hearing, which they will lose, but now they have U.S. citizen kids. Now they own equities. Now there may be Democratic administration in power, which will award amnesty. They're playing the long game, but we're enforcing laws as enacted by Congress, which you're a member of. We're not making this up. We're enforcing laws on the books, including the Alien Enemies Act, which is an act created by Congress. We're simply using laws on the books to make this country safe again.
And you can hear, by the way, in the background, Joe Scarborough furtively writing himself notes on this. But this is, Tom Homan is so dispassionate. I mean, he actually gets worked up when he talks about victims of illegal immigration and migration and the trailer of dead bodies that he found when he was an officer, a patrol officer. He talks about that. He gets worked up, but he's very clear and convincing and factual in how he presents his case. It's very well done. And Scarborough responds with, well, it's interesting, these arguments that you're making, but.
It's interesting. One of the arguments you made, I would make all the time when I was in Congress. I would have people, whether they were from Pakistan or Lithuania, wherever they were from, they would come to the United States, or they'd want to come to the United States, and they would stand in line, and it would be a very long line. And I always thought it was unfair that they stood and waited in line while other people were able to just come across the border. So, again, I think we agree on that point.
Wow.
Again, what I'm asking you, though, is whether the administration can do this in a way that is consistent with the United States Constitution and with what 9 members of the United States Supreme Court said, which is you cannot remove somebody that is here, even illegally, if they are in America, without giving them notice and without giving them due process before a judge. Is that something that you've been instructed to do moving forward? Because 9 members of the Supreme Court say that everybody deserves that opportunity in America.
We are using the laws on the books, the existing laws, to secure this border and to remove people here illegally with a priority on public safety threats and national security threats. We're not making this up. We're following the law, unlike the last administration who ignored the law, who actually violated the law of bringing 100,000 people, giving them parole status, the misuse of the parole statute, as you're well aware. There wasn't a case-by-case analysis of the hundreds of thousands they paroled in this country illegally. But now all of a sudden, they want a vetting process for deportation. There's no vetting process for the hundreds of thousands, actually millions of people they release in the country, no vetting process at all. But now they expect a vetting process for those who've seen an immigration judge, been ordered removed, and all of a sudden they want even a more of a vetting process for those deported.
Yeah, and he goes on to say it's just absolutely ridiculous. I've made this point myself. I think it's a great and valid point. Now, I have to take a break, but, again, this administration is not afraid to go on MSNBC and defend itself because this administration knows, as of last read on this, it's 53, 54% of Americans want everybody deported. Just want them all gone. And I think that the media people are realizing that they themselves are pushing something. Their resistance to these deportations are pushing something that is not popular, fundamentally not popular with the broader public. By the way, the number when it comes to criminal aliens is even higher. I'm just talking about all immigrants. Remember, it's the most recent poll that came out about this. So this is significant, big stuff that is happening. And it's a win, and that's why Trump's popularity continues to go up. I have those tracking numbers, by the way, for you when we come back. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT.
The Salmon Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Sam at what'srightshow.com. Okay. I promised this presidential tracking poll. Rasmussen came out with the numbers. This is, well, let me tell you, this is really good for Trump. I mean, it's got the tariff stuff going on. You've got all these, fights with the Supreme Court, these liberal judges out there trying to stop his deportations, claims by the media that Trump supporters are displeased with Trump and his policies. Remember, that is a continuing theme. We are unhappy. We're saying things like, this isn't what we voted for. Of course, all of this is nonsense, because if you look at the daily presidential tracking poll, as of this morning, it has Trump's approval at 51%. 47% disapprove, by the way. So he's positive. He's over 50%. Number one is always a good, strong indicator. And it's and also, I mean, the numbers are pretty close for strongly approve and strongly disapprove, 35 to 38. So, his approval ratings are certainly down from February and January, but they're coming back up from a low that happened last week, or about 10 days ago, week and a half ago. So he's coming back. And this is from Rasmussen. Rasmussen is one of the top pollsters and most accurate pollsters in the country. By the way, there's another poll that Rasmussen conducted that they released this morning. You want to know what that is? Speaking of illegal immigration, how important is it that illegal immigrants who commit crimes in America should be deported? That was a question asked. Very important, 43%. Somewhat important, 26%. Not very important, 15, not at all important, 8, not sure, 8%. So between very important and somewhat important, what is that, 59%? And what if I told you that these are just the Democrats? These are the Democrats. Now, remember, the number is, I think, 53, 54% of the whole country, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, everybody, when it comes to deporting everyone, even the nice lady that, that's held a job for 10 years but been in the country illegally, everyone, she goes out of here, return to sender. 59% of Democrats think that we should be deporting, that it's at least somewhat important that we deport illegal immigrants who commit crimes. This is why I think you're seeing MSNBC actually tiptoe around Tom Homan and not treat him like the Gestapo. That this is how they started, right? They treated him like he was literally coming in, and committing war crimes. It's just not the case. And they're realizing that public opinion, this is the Democrats just opened the floodgates. And the Democrats don't even, they're still, I was battling again today with Grok, speaking of our AI conversation yesterday on the program. And Grok was giving me some info on angel families and used undocumented migrants. And I got angry at Grok, which is, the Elon Musk AI platform. And I said, don't use that term. That's an inappropriate term to use. Well, just fall. And basically then Grok goes and explains to you that they're pulling that from a bunch of publicly available information. I'm like, yeah, bunch of leftist propaganda, undocumented migrants. No, these are criminal, illegal aliens. They need to be sent, returned to sender, and to a prison. By the way, can we repeat why it's important to get the criminals into El Salvador's prison, for example? Why that is so important? Because I've had this discussion with some of you that have emailed me about this over the years, and I came out, I think, before Trump got into office, but after the election, I said we got to deport these criminals, and a number of you correctly, I'm not fighting you on this, but said, well, they first have to pay for their crime. Now, I'm fine, by the way. I'm fine if paying for your crime, if you've raped and murdered a child and you're eligible for the death penalty. I'm all about you paying for the crime. Terminate it, right? End of the line. I'm all about the execution. But I don't like having these folks be in prison and getting released 10 years from now when, let's say, there's a Democratic, administration in office that would then drag their heels on removing that convicted, now released criminal alien out of the country. They would do it. Absolutely. Biden would absolutely have done everything that he could have, the administration could have to keep that person in America. They'd send him here to Vegas. They would have us just, keep the person. And I'm just pointing out to you something very important, that that idea of them getting convicted or charged with the crime, send them to El Salvador's prison. Have them serve their term outside the U.S. so that when they get released, off they have to. They literally will have to sneak back into the country. Make it hard. Make it difficult. It's very important. So it's just a home and is an absolute beast. Absolute beast. And Trump, I think his popularity continues to go up because he's delivering on the promises that got him elected. It's very basic. And the Democrats, I'm going to be the cynic here, don't shoot the messenger. The Democrats are trying to derail Trump because one of the things that made them succeed in the 2020 election was they threw enough obstacles at Trump that they got enough Republicans to be disappointed with his lack of forward progress and fulfillment of campaign promises. The top reason the Democrats didn't want to fund the wall, for example, is because they knew if they funded it, Trump would have a win. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. The What's Right show is brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right. Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here, Nevada's favorite recovering Californian behind the What's Right microphone. Friends, welcome to the program. Obviously, it's Friday. It's been a week. I mean, absolutely. And I have to tell you, this Florida State University shooting, tragic events yesterday as we were on air, or right before we went on air. And I didn't want to get into it yesterday, given that it was a developing situation. We do not talk about and do not mention mass shooters, although this guy appears to be, at least based on what's publicly available now, another one of these rabid, crazy leftists. So the media narrative once again defeated, and it, again, I want to remind you all that for the greater part of the last 10 years, under 3 different administrations, only one of which being a Republican one, the FBI has absolutely invested itself in a narrative that singles out right-wing extremism, and that has devoted an enormous amount of the department's resources and time to seeking out conservatives suspected of radicalism, and at the same time ignoring actually dangerous real radicalism, for example, Islamic terrorists, and of course, radicals on the left. Now, this all dovetails, of course, into the current administration's efforts now to get things done and moving. And there is, as you would expect, from an agency that has pursued a woke agenda. Again, I say 10 years. It was, frankly, it's longer than that. As you might suspect, there is resistance from within the agency. And this was Natalie Winters went on Steve Bannon's War Room. And this was yesterday, Thursday. Winters explained that she got this information, some information from FBI whistleblower Stephen Friend. He's a well-known guy. And apparently there's been a development with the new FBI. And I'll just here's the first part of this. It's astounding. Listen to what the FBI is telling agents about deportations.
FBI agents, so these are the sort of rank and file, are actually being given the option to opt out of participating in deportation raids if they do not align with, say, their personal or political beliefs. And the people who are letting them or enabling them to opt out come at sort of the squad supervisor or field office special agent in charge level. And in at least 2 cases, Steve was relaying to me how a lot of these sort of left-wing FBI, which is more concentrated at the management level or the sort of supervisory roles, that they were saying people who participated in these raids, they were comparing them to Nazis, trying to create a culture whereby these agents wouldn't necessarily want to participate in these raids to begin with.
Now, remember again about the Kilmar Abrego Garcia story. This is the gangbanger that's down in El Salvador now meeting with U.S. senators. Remember how he was stopped by the Tennessee Highway Patrol, found to have seemed to have been a human trafficking situation with 7 undocumented people in the car with him. No valid license, right? Whole thing was sus AF, as the kids say. And a call to the FBI. Oh, by the way, they found at that point he was on a terror watch list. They call the FBI, and the FBI says, let them all go, without an explanation. Now, I field questions every day, it seems, certainly every week, several of them, from a lot of you that are demanding that Kash Patel and Pam Bondi start doing things. Do you have any idea how difficult it is to operate any organization where 90% of the people, certainly in management level positions, are diametrically opposed to your agenda? I mean, I know this from business. It's a straightforward thing, right? You know, you sometimes have people in the office that think they know how to do things better, particularly when you have a law firm. And you get lawyers who think they're very smart and they figured out a different or better way to do things. Listen, you can go start your own law firm. Okay, be your own lawyer, but I know how to do this. I'm telling you how to do this. And if you can't do it my way, then we have to part ways. And I've had those kind of tough conversations over the years of being a law firm owner, for example. So I can appreciate in the Department of Justice and the FBI that it is no easy walk in the park for Pam Bondi or Kash Patel to rid the layers of all these people. Now, the good news is, and Natalie Winters, well, first, let me just finish this clip here, because she then talks about how, they basically, the FBI left ICE stranded on a raid. So it's bad. It's affecting operations.
There was one incident where there was a text chain between a staff supervisor, squad supervisor, when a team of FBI agents were supposed to be en route and joining ICE officials, ICE agents in a deportation raid. ICE thought that FBI was going to be coming and assisting them, but this supervisor said, no, we're actually not, and they left ICE stranded without the FBI support staff that they wanted.
It's astounding. Because agents are allowed to opt out. They're allowed to opt out. It doesn't fit my beliefs. I don't want to arrest any migrants. I don't want to deport any people. I believe that these illegals should remain in the country, even though it's contrary to U.S. law. Do you know what I think about this? My right out of the barrel reaction to this was, well, good. Now Kash Patel and Dan Bongino know who to fire. This is great news. You've just self-identified as a retard. Perfect. You're a leftist freak, and you are being, I mean, do we want somebody in the FBI who has sympathies for criminal activity? Can you imagine? throw it out here. Look, hey, I can't participate in chasing a bank robber. I like bank robbers. Then what the frick are you doing in the FBI? See how weird this gets? But I think it's good. I think it's going to take time. It's going to take huge amounts of time. I'm worried that it will probably at least take a year. And look at how this is why the court systems are fighting tooth and nail, these liberal judges, preventing Trump from firing people, because the libs have stacked all of these bureaucracies. The FBI is included in this, Department of Justice as well, stacked them with people who are hostile to conservatives. And they have ingrained in these agencies a culture that is very much defiant when a Republican president is in office, and very much cooperative and, aggressively engaged when a Democrat gets elected. So things kind of maybe slow down a little bit when you've got a guy like Bush in there, or even Trump in his first term when he didn't really know what he was dealing with. But then they speed up when you've got a Politburo run operation like you do under Joe Biden, where he's, sleeping and eating ice cream and snoozing while a small group of very powerful people run the presidency. To me, this is this is the fight. This is the most important thing that Trump does. And by the way, I asked Riley Lewis earlier this week in the extra episode that we had dropped this week. That was my interview with him. Riley Lewis is a host on OAN. I asked him the most important thing Trump can do, and you'll want to listen to his answer. But for me, cleaning up the deep state is got to be top of the tops. Cleaning out the FBI, ridding the FBI of these agents, and showing and demonstrating to the American public a return to professionalism by this agency, I think, is absolutely critical. So that's that. Okay, we'll take a quick break. Sam Mirejovsky here, behind the What's Right microphone. This hour of the program brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam & Ash 702-820-1234, because you deserve what's right. One thing the Democrats did not waste any time in doing is to make the FSU shooting all about gun control. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Greetings, friends. Welcome to the program. Great to be with you this Friday. Hope you are all having a good day. Now, I have to tell you, it's immediately, that was the first thing out there. Again, gun control. But it kind of was it was very wimpy, because Trump immediately threw some cold water on it. This was in the White House yesterday in a press conference, just one of those. He's doing these every day. He's talking to the media all the time. And so he's just sitting there behind his desk, and he's taking questions. And this was the question in response to the gun control
There are now 2 deceased following that shooting at Florida State University. Following and amid that, is there any changes that you want to see to gun legislation? Anything you see broken with gun laws in our country?
I'm going to have to look. I'm a big advocate of the Second Amendment. I have been from the beginning. I protected it, and these things are terrible. But the gun doesn't do the shooting. The people do. It's a phrase that's used probably too often. I will tell you that it's a shame. I'm just hearing about it now. I just hear about it. I know the area very well. I know the school very well. I know everything about it. It's Florida. And we'll have more to say about it later. I have to see what happens.
What do you mean when you say there will be more to say about it?
Only in terms of what happened. As far as legislation is concerned, this has been going on for a long time. I have an obligation to protect the Second Amendment. I ran on the Second Amendment, among many other things, and I will always protect the Second Amendment.
There it is. I'll always protect the Second Amendment. Boom. End of story. Next question, please. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. That's the answer. Why not, in the wake of the senseless killing allegedly committed, Austin Metcalf, allegedly committed by Carmelo Anthony, did the Democrats not stand up and immediately demand knife control? Because clearly it was the knife. If only Carmelo Anthony didn't have a knife, none of this would have happened. And by the way, I don't think, is Carmelo Anthony debating or denying that he stabbed Austin Metcalf? He's claiming it was in self-defense. So, I mean, that is an undisputed fact as of today, at least, that that it happened. He used a knife. The victim's dead. Justifiable homicide? Question mark, right? I mean, I have my strong opinions about this. Don't see any evidence to suggest that it was. But knife control. You know how many knifings there are in Great Britain? They're always stabbing each other. It's a mess. They run around with cleavers. It's like a Fantasia meets a butcher shop. So, look, I mean, this is crazy. And by the way, isn't it funny too that nobody called for gun control when Luigi Mangione allegedly snuck up behind the healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson, and popped him in the back? Instead, nobody was like, oh, geez, we really shouldn't be giving guns to, communist revolutionaries that are trying to take down the oligarchy. Suddenly, by the way, when it's their revolution and they're killing conservatives, they love guns. The liberals love guns. They're all for guns. If the guns are in the hands of the proletariat fighting against the upper classes, if it's all in an effort to destroy the bourgeoisie, then it's a good thing. You got to get those guns out. They suddenly become rabid Second Amendment people. You see those trans rallies, and you see the trans people out there with their ridiculous camo gear, and they've got their AR-15s and assault weapons, and they've got all this like trans flags on their assault weapons. And you know what? I'm all for. Hey, listen, everybody. If you feel unsafe as a trans person in America, I think you ought to get a gun. Follow the law. Don't kill people. But protect yourself, protect your home. I'm all for it. I mean, I'm not offended when I see it. I just think it's funny because these people, based on the kind of logos and flags and and flair that they're putting on themselves, I think suggests that they're very liberal. but they're trolling around with guns, so I'm okay with that. So this whole argument is crazy. And speaking, by the way, of Luigi Mangione, Wednesday, I didn't cover it at the time, but Taylor Lorenz, who is on some sort of bizarro media tour supporting Luigi, goes on Fox News' Hannity show. And Hannity flat out asks her if she can condemn this. This was a moment. Can you condemn this? Can you take a moral stand? That's what Hannity says. Listen to the back and forth.
Can you take a moral stand and condemn that?
What I condemn is the violence of our system, and I would love for you to acknowledge that.
I'm not asking you to condemn the system. Taylor, do you condemn people that call for assassination?
Gosh, you're going to ask if I condemn Hamas next. This is crazy. I would love for you to acknowledge what I'm actually saying, Sean, and we seem to be talking past each other. We need to talk about that 70% of Americans, by the way, believe that the insurance company practices are responsible in part for Thompson's death. These are signs of an unhealthy...
You want to put a rationalization. I am saying anybody that wants to assassinate any innocent person is wrong. I don't care if it's a Democrat or Republican, and I speak that is a simple truth that anyone with a heart would easily say on national TV that you're having a hard time with.
If you want to prevent further deaths and you don't want gun violence in the street, which I think we both are aligned in wanting, right? We want peace. We do not want violence in this country, no matter what side of the political aisle it's coming from. You need to understand motives and you need to understand the ideology that people have.
Now pause it right there. This is why it's terrorism. This is exactly it. What the allegations are against Luigi Mangione amount to terrorism. They want to be heard on their ideology. Sean Hannity, if you want these violent acts to end, then you have to understand where we are coming from politically. That's what she said. And it gets worse from there.
Why don't you first condemn those that want to be involved in assassination and stop talking about them being handsome and smart and intelligent and
bingo.
I didn't say that I believe that. I am describing his supporters who do believe that, and I think it's very important. Just the way that I would try to understand the ideology
Will you
of,
condemn his supporters?
the people that march at the
question.
Unite the Right rally, I would try to understand the ideology of anyone that would advocate for violence in this country, no matter what it is.
Do you condemn his supporters?
Once again, I believe in free speech. I believe in free speech. If they have not committed any crimes, the supporters are outside just saying things. They're not committing any sort of acts of violence.
You won't condemn his supporters. You won't say what they're doing is repulsive.
Once again, Sean, I believe in free speech and the right to free expression. I seem to be in the minority
There's a difference
these days
between assassination and speech. Do you condemn those that support violence and, in this case, praise Luigi Mangione?
You asked, again, the people that are showing up outside
All right, we're going around in a circle. I got to go.
Bye, Taylor. So, again, this is the implicit threat of leftists. You want peace? You want harmony? You want our people to not roam the streets looking for, class and race exploiters? Mind your P's and Q's, and then you'll get peace. But until then, watch your back. Understand my demands and comply. Now, the whole concept, can somebody explain free speech to this idiot? Free speech is, First Amendment is the government not preventing you from saying something, right? So the government can't prevent you from, generally speaking, few exceptions apply, but, can't prohibit or compel speech. Can't make you say something. For example, the Pledge of Allegiance. They can't make you say it. Okay. If somebody out there is expressing legally, right? No dispute. Legally, the government can't stop him from doing it. Supporting an alleged CEO killer. Okay? You can condemn that. That person still keeps their speech rights vis-a-vis the government. But the whole point, the reason I love free speech is because I know who the heinous people are out there. I listen to somebody, let's say somebody like, quote unquote on our side, Candace Owens, and I go, ugh. I know that she now is a complete lobotomized idiot because she is allowed to speak. And I can tell you that a lot of what she says is horrible, and I can condemn it. That's how this works. Somebody needs to explain this to these people. My goodness. All right, folks, have a great weekend. See you next week. Monday is a whole new day.